In this module, you will learn how to enter in an experience into QuickBase. So, when we're working with participants as part of both Opportunity and Recovery Core, part of the goals that participants may identify for themselves can include things like obtaining employment, um, identifying a regular volunteer opportunity, getting an internship potentially as part of their educational pathway, or even obtaining an AmeriCorps service opportunity if they feel like service is the right fit for them. And so we want to make sure that we capture that support that we're helping them in reaching those experience goals into QuickBase. So in order to create a new experience, we click here on the New Experience button in the right-hand corner. And from there, you're going to make sure to connect that experience to a participant that you've already entered into QuickBase. So you'll be able to click on the drop down and select your participant. Make sure that their name, the participant's site name, and that unique identification number that appear once you select them from the drop down, make sure that those are all correct, that you've selected the correct participant, especially if you have a few participants with the same name or similar names. So verify that that participant information is correct, and then from there you'll be able to input the experience information. In the experience type dropdown, you'll be able to select what kind of experience your participant has gotten. So full-time employment, part-time employment, a volunteer, AmeriCorps service, internship, or practicum opportunity, or also we have an option for part-time, temporary, or seasonal employment as well. So you'll select that from the drop-down and make sure to include their position title, the organization, company, agency, or industry where they are gaining this experience, and then what their start date is. We want to make sure that, in fact, these people have begun their experience before we record the experience, before we indicate that start date. So we don't want to say, oh, in 3 months they're going to start their internship. We want to wait to record that until they have started their internship or they have begun that employment, because we know that things can happen in between that time when an offer has been made and when somebody actually begins. So we just want to make sure that, in fact, it is accurate. So once they've begun that experience, you can indicate their start date, how many hours per week this experience would be, and if it's an employment, the hourly wage associated with it. You can also indicate if health benefits are provided as part of this experience, and if that experience is related to any training, credential, or education that they've also been completing. That might be particularly useful for Opportunity Core members. If you do indicate that the experience is a full-time employment, you'll see one quick change at the kind of midway through this experience information here, and that's regarding living wage. So we want to capture if our participants are obtaining employments that do pay a living wage. And so living wage is defined as full-time, so that's why you don't even see that option unless somebody does have a full-time employment. And you'll be able to indicate yes or no if it's living wage. And the way that you check that is actually going to be by clicking on this little yellow information icon to the left of that field. And you'll be able to go right to the living wage calculator that's indicated in the link there. It's through the through MIT, actually. And if we go over here and input that link right into our browser, we're going to be able to go and identify exactly what the criteria is for any county or metropolitan area in Minnesota, or you can always use Minnesota as a whole if you don't know where your person's residing. So let's just show results for Minnesota as a whole. And from there, you'll be able to see what living wage would be, what the wage would have to be, depending upon the number of people in that household. So for just one adult across the state of Minnesota, we're looking at just about $11 an hour. But if your participant has one adult themselves and then a child in the household, you would see how that would change. So you can utilize these charts for your knowledge in answering the living wage question, which pops up if you have a person who has obtained a full-time employment, which is 36 or more hours a week. You can certainly follow up with your program manager in regard to any living wage questions that you have as you're inputting data. And then retention is the last part that I really want to talk about here. Retention is really important. And if you are the person who is going to be making retention calls to determine if people are keeping the experiences that we're helping them obtain, you'll want to be indicating that here. If you're not the person who's making those 30, 60, 90, 180 or 365-day calls to your participant, you want to connect with the person at your agency who is doing those retention checks with the people who gain experiences. It's really, really important that we help people not only get the experience, but retain that experience. So if nobody else is doing it in your organization, that's going to be your responsibility, and you should be checking in with your site supervisor in regard to when you should be making those retention calls. If you have additional questions about retention as part of the Opportunity or Recovery Corps programs, please contact your program manager. All right. And then from here, you can this bottom section here is in regard to training. That's actually embedding the different trainings related to the participant that you select here. So if that participant, you've already recorded trainings for them, they'll show up here and you'll be able to actually kind of connect, hey, this experience relates directly to that training that they have been going through and that I've been helping support them through. And that's it. So if you have multiple experiences, you can go ahead and do Save and New. Otherwise, you'll click the Save and Close button.